Amalfi Coast Tours, the top 7 things you should know before visiting the Amalfi Coast, plus a bonus tip. Amalfi Coast Tours are probably the most spectacular scenery you're going to see on a trip to Italy. If you're planning a trip to the Amalfi Coast, then these following 7 tips about the Amalfi Coast will definitely be of interest to you. Number 1. Tip 1. The Amalfi Coast, situated in southern Italy, is probably the most difficult place to drive in the entire country. Nicknamed the Road of 1,000 Bends for its spectacular, breathtaking scenery, locals and tourists pour onto the coast and from the surrounding countryside to enjoy days by the water. The challenge of driving the bends also makes it a favorite spot for motorbikers to race. So if you're wanting to have a lower stress experience on vacation, it may be more enjoyable to take an organized tour. Tip number 2. There are public buses that connect the various villages of Amalfi, Positano and Ravello on the Amalfi Coast. Whilst the public bus is a relatively inexpensive option to driving yourself, these local buses are mainly there for the locals. Before taking on this experience, you must know that they tend to get very full, making it difficult to get a seat on the public bus. And since they are on a tight schedule, they tend not to slow down on the bends. You may find it to be more of an experience than you bargained for. Tip number 3. The Amalfi Coast Tour road is narrow in places, having been widened to 2 lanes for the last time only in the 1960s. However, there are occasional places where you can stop to take photos of the awesome scenery that takes your breath away. So, if you're traveling the Amalfi coastline under your own steam, ensure to take your camera, as it will be some of the most memorable photos you take whilst here in Italy. Tip 4. The coastline of the Amalfi Coast is awe-inspiring due to its dramatic, raw, natural beauty. So when setting out for the day, having a plan that includes the places you want to stop is essential, as things like restrooms and food facilities are difficult to find. So plan to make at least one stop in one of the typical towns of the Amalfi Coast, Positano or Ravello. Tip 5. The Amalfi Coast can also be reached by water. Private boats can get to almost every little cove, and the public boats connect all of the coastal villages with the Isle of Capri, Sorrento or the city of Naples. However, if you plan to arrive on the Amalfi Coast using this alternative, you must know that there are sometimes delays or disruptions to boat schedules. Tip 6. Touring the Amalfi Coast by water gives you a totally different experience to arriving by road. When you arrive by boat, you will only get views from the water. In order to get the views from above, you could think about maybe arranging returning to the airport or the train station along the coastline using your ground transportation transfer service. And there are many of these companies available. Tip 7. The Amalfi Coast has moved on from the days when it was just a small series of quaint little fishing villages frequented only by the jet-set elite. In peak season, most villages on the Amalfi Coast get filled to the brim with day trippers. So if you do have enough time to spare, some of the best experiences on the Amalfi Coast are to be had after hours once the day trippers have departed. So think about staying there also. And now I would like to invite you to get our free special report on how to get the best out of your time on the Amalfi Coast, a free Amalfi Coast Visitor's Guide. Go to amalficoasttours.org/free visitors guide. I'll see you there.